Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to all of our attendees tuning in from around the world. Today's broadcast of Invisible Women in Sport is an Institute for Sport and Social Justice production. I am your producer, Garnett L. Overby III. All guests will be muted during this production, but I encourage you to use the chat feature to ask a question or leave a comment. We will reserve time at the end to answer your questions. So now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our host, Candace Martin.
Thanks, Garnett. Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 3, episode 3 of Invisible Women in Sport. And I'm your host, Candace Martin. Today, you are all in for a special treat, as today's guest is Miss Jacqueline Freeman Johnson, Senior Associate Athletic Director for Internal Operations and the Chief of Staff at where? The Alabama State University. I'm very, very excited to spend this time with you, Miss Jacqueline, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm so excited.
Awesome. So, like I told you, other than the pre-screen, I'm going to do one of two icebreakers. So I chose rapid fire. I love the love in the chat from one of my teammates. Go Hornets. So I'm going to get my timer. So I'm set it for 30 seconds so we can get started on our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Let's see how Miss Jacqueline does under a time clock.
Ooh, okay.
All right. So night in or night out with friends?
Ooh, night in.
Favorite sport to play?
Tennis.
Favorite brand? So like clothing brand.
Oh, that's going to be a hard one. All right, like Cardi said, I can buy designer, but fashion over fits. So that's what I'm going with.
Period. I love that. Favorite workout song?
Ooh, anything from Meek Mill.
All right. And last one, sitcom or reality TV show?
We're going to go with sitcom, old school. I think this is my third time watching Frasier.
Okay. I don't think I've seen Frasier. Okay. So I haven't seen Frasier. I don't. You said old school. I mean, I don't.
Man, so all that means is that you sleep well, you don't suffer from insomnia, you're not up at 2 a.m. So
this is true. I'm usually out about 11. Well, this past week was probably about midnight. We were studying for a finance test, but that's another chat for another day. All righty. So we're gonna jump right in with the conversations. So Jacqueline, just open us up. Just pretty much tell the audience, how you got your start in the sport industry.
So my transition to athletics is a little unique. So I think you meet a lot of administrators and coaches who were student athletes. Maybe they were a GA, and they just had a natural transition. My introduction to sports was the fact that I grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And since I can remember, my parents have always taken us to Alabama football games. So my parents were faculty there. It was a part of what we did. So my first national championship, I think, was the 1992 team. And so that was my introduction to big time college sports. And so when I moved away from home for law school, as far as I was concerned, I'd moved away as far as I could be from big time sports. And so my focus was family law. So at the completion of my fellowship, I took a moment to pause and asked, is there anything else I'm interested in doing with my law degree? At that time, you had a lot of administrators leaving practice, going into the field of compliance. And so I reached out to the folks at UNH, called, asked if I could come over, just try it, see if it was something I was interested in. Got my first paying gig, I think it was January 2014, and I've been in athletics ever since.
Very nice, very nice. So a couple follow-up questions just based on what you just said. So you talked about how you cold call. So oftentimes in the industry, there's a lot of things are blocked by social media or sending emails. So I think especially like my generation, those coming behind me have lost the value of actually picking up the phone and also face-to-face conversation. So how could you emphasize the importance of that? How do you feel like that helped you in getting where you are today and setting you apart from the many people who are possibly applying for that same role and position?
Ooh, so I think the landscape was definitely different when I did this because this was like 2013. So there was no other way for me to get involved other than to ask. So
Right.
you send an email, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm interested in learning more about this area. I think it was definitely helpful that I had the ability to work for free, to do an internship. As you know, in athletics, there are a couple areas that always need help: compliance,
Yeah.
academics, game day operations. And so I think if you're eager, you're willing, said I would call, follow up. I believe they actually reached out to me. So I'm like, oh, this is great because they're interested in the help. At the time, UNH is in Durham. I was living in Manchester. So for me, it was a commitment to make a 45-minute one-way commute a couple of times a week. So I think it was just the excitement, the curiosity, and also the perfect timing of them needing that help.
Indeed. So just more so just closed mouth doesn't get fed. So just asking. And then
Absolutely.
also just being willing to say yes. Because I know we talked about that a little bit yesterday and we'll bring that in at the end. So just being willing and just being open to saying yes to all those opportunities.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you graduated with an accounting degree. Then you went on, and I will say, like me and my classmates, we have struggled in accounting. So I could only imagine what it's like to actually get a degree in accounting. And then from there, you go in to get your JD. So why do you feel like, or how do you feel like those degrees assisted you in the role that you are in currently?
So first of all, I will say that I love school. There are very few things I struggle with, but I do remember managerial accounting took me through it. So I feel for
Was it the
y'all.
one we had? I can't even remember right now.
It wasn't supposed to be hard, but that was my Achilles. And so I completed my accounting background. That was December 2018.
Okay.
So 2008, spring 2009 and summer 2009, I finished the coursework for finance and a minor in econ, and then I started law school. And so I will say, as a side note, I use economics and Excel every day. So folks want to figure a way
That's a
to
tip. Absolutely.
get those into your curriculum. But I think it is just the intentional, thoughtful thinking. You have to digest a lot of information. You have to make decisions. As you know, you're hit with a lot of information at once, and sometimes you just need one answer. So you might have 600 pages of information, a million data points, and I just need a round figure of what it is I'm working towards. And so I think just the rigorous nature of my coursework, but law school specifically, you have to know the rules and your parameters in order to figure out how to play the game. And so when you're going through that rule book and your coach is wanting to say yes, they're wanting that competitive advantage, you want to be creative, you want to be thoughtful, you want to figure out how to maximize benefit without going too far over the top. And I feel like those are things that you learn in college and just general in life. So
absolutely. So as you guys can all see, Jacqueline is a jack of all trades. She can guru with numbers. She's an associate AD for internal affairs. She's also chief of staff. She's also spent time as an adjunct professor. So tell us a little bit about that and how you feel like that experience also assisted you in your day-to-day.
That for me was what I call a God wink moment, and we'll talk about that a little later. That was one of those secret desires I had always had, but I wasn't sure how it was going to manifest. I remember being so excited to take my first day of school picture with my class, and I'm like, I'm the fourth Professor Freeman. This is so great. But I think in that situation, the department, the School of Nursing realized that in my day-to-day life as a compliance administrator, I have to nurture, develop, foster creativity and growth in a vulnerable population. So, as being a student athlete, whether you're a freshman or a senior, the expectations are high. And so it's getting folks brought in, helping them figure out how to walk their path. And I think that's just a transferable skill to whatever it is you're doing. And so it was a nice fit to what I did every day. And so a typical day for me, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I taught an 8 a.m. class. So 8 a.m., 8:50, maybe 10 minutes for questions, 9 to 4:30 or so compliance, another hour for admissions, academics, and wash, rinse, repeat for the next day.
Absolutely. So I have two questions from this. So you talked about transferable skills. So what are some transferable skills that you, let's say 3 that you've picked up along your way that you have found to be most essential and working in the sport industry, just working in any industry overall?
I think specifically for sports, you have to have a heart for service. And so we'll hear a lot of times about service leadership, organization, communication. You can figure out a lot just by being willing to serve, asking those questions, and then having a method, a path, a plan to execute.
Absolutely. So let's talk about a little bit. So were there any struggles that you initially had beginning in the industry when you first started work, and how did you overcome some of those roadblocks?
Struggles. You know, that term, it's a little subjective.
Yeah, that's true.
I think for a lot of people, I was entering athletics in a time where everybody wanted to be in athletics. And so you have a lot of people wanting to work for minimal pay or little pay, or you're wanting to just get the experience. And I tell anyone, I am so thankful for my parents. I get to do what I'm doing now because I told my parents, I said, hey, I want to explore athletics. And my dad and mom in true fashion were like, well, if this is what you want to do, we'll support you until you figure out how to get your feet on the ground. So that took off a tremendous amount of stress because then I was able to seek the type of opportunities that I wanted to grow and develop. And so I think it was trying to get in a door where you have a million people who are interested in it, and then figuring out a way to cut your own path. So that I started my career in compliance, and that is a tough area. It's a unique area. The lawyer, the JD training, all of that. You're ready to go through the book and highlight, and you're picking out the difference between and or. But then you're also having to manage personalities and expectations. You might have a tenured storied coach on the last year of his contract and he's got to win. And so he's going to push the envelope to get, the best player do what he needs to do. You might also be in a situation where you're juggling lots of new and part-time coaches. And so it's the technical competency of what it is that you're needing to do, but then it's also figuring out your style for delivery, how you want to serve, how you want to engage, and then just learning your environment. One of the most helpful things I heard was from Bruce McCutcheon. He was the AD at the time at Lafayette University. College athletics is a lifestyle. It is very much a lifestyle. And so when you figure out how that lifestyle works into your other personal, family, career goals, then you can start seeking, I don't even want to say balance because it's not balance, but just integration.
Oh, let's talk about it. We had another guest that actually mentioned that. She was like, it's not work-life balance, it's work-life. I forget how she put it, but it was along the lines of integration. So you have to figure out how the two can coexist together and how you can figure out a way to successfully maneuver both spaces in a way that works for you.
Okay.
So it's true, everyone, it's been reinforced time and time again. So that's definitely a good tidbit. Okay, so there's a belief that women, specifically Black women, are often pigeonholed into compliance positions, and they often struggle to get out. So as a woman, a Black woman that has successfully maneuvered out of the space, what would you say to those people who have those beliefs?
A couple of things. I heard those same rumors, but I also understand that compliance afforded me an opportunity to grow, to learn, and develop in athletics in a way that I don't know the other disciplines would have done so. From going to different professional development opportunities, they have a special session for compliance administrators that want to leave that path and maybe become an AD. One of the things they always remind you that as a compliance administrator, you touch on every aspect of a department. So fundraising, academics, staff, HR, everything that impacts athletics, you sit through, you work through, it's in your book. And so you actually have the skills. It's then just being intentional about what your path looks like. I'm very, very, very fortunate that I have an athletic director that started in compliance. It's where the compliance and academic student services, it's where he built his career, but that he also recognized the other tools in my kit and on my belt and realized that the department can benefit from giving me an opportunity to explore those.
Absolutely. So it's also important to have a boss that's willing to see the work ethic and actually see the value in you and is willing to kind of work with you and be able to create a position or put you in roles to where you can excel and flourish and utilize the things you've learned, but also gaining new experiences as well. Is that kind of what I'm getting? Okay, absolutely. So great. Make sure you tell Jason Cable I said hello. Do you remember the first time we met? I don't know if you remember.
I feel like it would have.
It's not a trick question.
Spring 2019?
What, it was at a SWAC golf championship. So at that point,
Yeah,
I was at the SWAC office.
Yeah, I feel like it was spring 2019.
You were fairly new. You had like your watch on. You said, "Oh, it's time to get up," because you were doing it. Your watch told you to stand up. So it was the first time we met. And we'll get into the fitness aspect in just a second. So now we've spent some time talking about a little bit about your background, and then we went into your time in compliance. So now we want to roll into your current position. So what would you tell someone interested in a role such as yours, like someone who has fairly little to no knowledge about a role like this? So what are some 3 to 5 things you would tell them? These are the parameters of the roles that I'm currently handling right now at Alabama State.
So when you see senior associate athletic director, in internal operations, that should key a couple things. It means that the person is a member of senior staff, and so they're going to be a key decision maker for day-to-day issues, policies, visions, all that kind of things for an athletic department. Internal operations focuses my intent, my gaze, my responsibilities. And so, as you know, you have internal, external. So external is going to be your fundraising, donor development, those kinds of initiatives. Internal operations for me is business and finance, it's HR, equipment, special internal projects, strategic planning. And so I have a narrow focus on what happens in the house. Chief of staff, that means I'm the first contact for a lot of things that are happening. So, tough loss after game and fans want to call, or a parent or a AD, president of an institution, just that first line of defense to make sure folks get connected to the resources and information they need.
Absolutely. So take us through a day-to-day. So you essentially wearing 2 hats. So how does Jacqueline put on one hat, run in the office, or running down in the acadome and putting on the other hat? So how do you juggle? What does it look like?
So, I'll walk through a typical day. So right now, most days my alarm goes off at 4 a.m. Yeah, I know, 4 a.m., but I'm a morning person. So usually 5 to 6 a.m., I pick one of those Orange Theory classes because you've got to get it out of the way because you don't know what the rest of your day is going to look like. Usually during that time, I spend a couple minutes to myself meditating. Right now I'm doing the Bible in a Year app. So reading that, I'll check my calendar just to get my mind wrapped around what it is I need to do today. Home, shower, grab something quick to eat in the office. Usually before 8:30, I've taken anywhere from 2 to 5 phone calls, just from folks who might not realize the time zone we're in, or they've been worried about something all night long, and when the clock says 8 o'clock, they are calling. So my typical day in the office starts somewhere between 8:30 and 9 a.m. And every day is a surprise. It can be HR tasks, just revamping, revisiting, getting our new staff established, budgeting, equipment. Everybody always needs money. No, we don't have any McDonald's money. I know don't have any McDonald's money right now. Being creative in solving that, a big push, a big priority of Dr. Cable is the student athlete experience. And so it's not I've got to figure out a way to make that happen. We don't get to do what we do without them. And so we want to make sure that they have a top tier experience. And so calls from parents, calls from outside constituents. A lot of people are just excited and want information. I answer all 3, 4 of my phones. And so it's getting people, hey, yep, this is what we're doing for tickets. This is what's happening this way. Sometimes I have students that just want to stop in and say hello and check in on me. Part of my responsibilities is for oversight. And so sometimes my students might stop by just to say, hey, Miss Jack, what you up to? I pre-COVID used to always be the spot for snacks and things in my office. And so that was a nice fit. At this point, it might be 1, 2 o'clock. I'm deciding if I want to get lunch or if I'm going to do what I've been doing for a while. It's called Dinner. It's that lunch dinner combo.
Okay, Leonard.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm with you.
that lunch dinner combo. On days where there's not a need for me to be immediately accessible and available and respond to urgent requests, you like to sit down and maybe go through policies or procedures or work on a couple of projects. I've got a special project that I'm working on right now with, yes, Karen, I just saw that winner.
Yeah,
With Team Impact. We're excited to acknowledge that in the next couple of weeks. So some of those key things that keep me excited. So a lot of those personal projects. And then at this point, it's 6 p.m. And so it's figuring out, all right, have I done everything I need to do today? What am I going to start my day with tomorrow? I might have, one or two more follow-up conversations with AD Cable. And then hopefully I get a chance to go home, switch modes, enjoy spending time with my husband. I am recently married. And so, just, navigating, thank you, newlywed life and a pandemic and a new job and all that kind of stuff. So my days are full. During the fall 2021 semester, I worked 7 days a week, 9 to 6 every day. So.
Absolutely. So a couple things I want to hit on. So how did you choose campus versus conference office versus national office? Why did Jacqueline decide that campus life would be where she needs to be right now?
I'm open to all, but I also understand that I get a lot of energy and excitement from my student athletes. Every personality assessment that I've ever taken points to the fact that relationship, individual growth in that aspect is really important to me.
Absolutely. So I like that. So you also talked about student athletes. So day to day, you're very busy maneuvering, wearing multiple hats. So how do you ensure, is there a specific way that you ensure that you're getting that face value with your student athletes? Is that you keeping your door open? Are you popping in at practices? Is it kind of a little bit of both? Like, what do you do to kind of ensure that you keep that relationship, keep building a relationship with your student athletes?
It's all of the above. I'm really fortunate that I have the ability to travel. So anytime that I can hit the road with one of my teams, all I need is my laptop, hotspot, and a cell phone. And so I'm off. I try to keep my door open as much as I can. Sometimes it requires that I might be locked away all day. I'm in a couple of our group chats. And so I might pop in with the looking eyes, make sure everybody's okay. I follow some of them on social media. So we got a boyfriend breakup. Let's check in on folks. Let's do team meals. And so it's just a mix depending on their needs and my availability.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So in the light of willingness and also just continuing to gain knowledge and remain an asset to any organization, just a professional, just continue to grow as a professional. If you could choose one book or a podcast to recommend to young professionals or young women, what would it be and why?
Ooh.
It doesn't necessarily have to be like sport related or anything like that.
Honestly, it's not. It's not. My favorite podcast, my favorite books are trying to think of the best way to describe these, but like murder mysteries or true crime shows.
Yes.
There is this false narrative that in order to be at the top, the peak of what you do, you have to work all day, every day. It is a total grind, nonstop. We have hashtags for it. Nope. My best self requires me to recharge, refresh, and I need to take a break. I don't know if you've seen some of those memes where it's making fun of folks who listen to murder mysteries and true crime shows to relax. I'm one of those people.
Okay, very nice. I enjoy, I will go to bed to like First 48 or Cold Case Files, love it. Cold Case Files, love all of it. Love true crime. I enjoy a lot the true crime podcast and all those things. So I am with you. I stand with you in the meme creations. We are one.
Joe Kenda, just like watching him walk through his storied career is so cool. So I definitely enjoy some of the content's heavy. Some of it is really, really hard, but seeing it from his perspective as this famous detective is pretty cool.
Indeed. One of my classmates is picking on me about falling asleep. So First 48, it's good. It's nice. Like the little sound. I could be a little detective partially as much as I've spent time just watching those kind of shows. All right, so you kind of talked about unplugging.
Mhm.
So how do you effectively balance? You talked about how you kind of balance your duties. So what do you do in your free time? How do you unplug? How does Jacqueline like to reset when she's out of the office and she doesn't have any duty? She's got all her things done. She's checked her list off and it's 6 p.m. and she's
What
headed
is this?
somewhere.
Where is this utopia you speak of? I think one of the things that I had to do and realize that I had to schedule moments of joy throughout the day. Anytime I call my husband and I've had a long day, he kind of runs through the list. Have you eaten yet? Did you work out this morning? Do you have a dance class scheduled? So I can't wait for large uninterrupted blocks of time, but I can be intentional about prioritizing self-care and aftercare. So self-care is what you do to keep yourself running at your best. And so that could be your, I think of it as like your preventive maintenance, your oil change, getting the good fuel, the premium fuel. And so, pre-scheduling my workouts for the week, making sure, hey, Risque, that I get like a dance class in. She was like such a great gym for me to find here in Montgomery. Also really intentional about scheduling massages, but then also having a really, really quick trip. Hey, I'm tired, I'm depleted today. What can I do to put a little air in my sail? And so I think it's a combination of all of those things.
Absolutely. I like that. And I think that it's right now, specifically in grad school, is very hard. So I spent 5 seasons waking up at 4:45 in the morning. So when you said 4 o'clock, it kind of made me cringe a little bit. Took some tough times there. And so now just trying to prioritize, working out, trying to find time, make time, but also trying to find the things I enjoy doing. So still trying to work that out because I tell my classmates, Maya knows, Candace won't work out before 7. But then I also can't wake up before 8. So there's a problem. So I'm a work in progress, so it's okay. All righty, friends. So I'm coming up on I want to make sure on one of my last questions. So please, 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 Garnett, I already put in the chat. Put your questions there for Jacqueline. Iane is going to take us through Q&A once I wrap up.
Okay.
All right. So we spoke about it a little bit the other day, and I love to wrap up with this question with all of my guests. So what would you tell your younger self? A young Jacqueline beginning to enter the industry, you can go back as far or as near as where you currently are right now. Just what would you tell your younger self?
Oh man, I've been thinking about this, and there's so many little gems, but
we want them all. We want them all.
I think my willingness to say yes, to the new things, the hard things, has opened doors and given me experiences I could not have imagined. I'm so thankful that I've had a chance to live from coast to coast. I've worked FBS, Power 5 to small private Division II institutions and everything else in between. And so you collect experiences that change you and help you grow in a way that you can't imagine. I'd also say, give yourself space to mourn what you think you lost, whether that be a job opportunity, a relationship, whatever it is, but know that it all works out in the end anyway. I think also something that has been so helpful in moving and transitioning is just reminding myself to leave people well. They might not deserve it. It might not be what you want to do, but a lot of those relationships that you've made 2, 5, 10 years ago are going to be things that give you life and encourage you along the way. And I think one that's really super important is that oftentimes we feel that those prayers and secret petitions of our hearts go unanswered, and it just be a reminder to self, girl, God heard you. He's got you. You're okay. It's going to unfold in his divine timing, and it's going to be so much better than you imagined.
Indeed. So I want to summarize for the people in the back who maybe didn't catch it all. So I heard say yes and just be willing. Treat people well. Mourn your losses, whether that be a job you didn't get, whether that be a relationship, a loved one, just taking the time to recognize that and also realizing that it'll all work out in the end. And also everything will work out in God's timing. That's what I heard. Did I get them all?
You got them all.
Yes. Period. That's the Bama State spirit. Yes, ma'am. All righty. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. It was a pleasure. And I'm now going to throw it over to Iane for the Q&A.
Hi guys. Okay. So I'll be kicking off our Q&A session. And our first question is from Matt Edelson. He says, with so much on her plate daily, does Jacqueline have any tips for how she manages time and interruptions throughout the day?
Ooh. So for me, honestly, that is a process that I'm still working out and developing. When people walk into my office, I like to turn and give them time and attention and to put away my task. So one of the things that I do right when I come in my office first thing in the morning is to create a to-do list, but I'm intentional about prioritizing it. Everything on that list does not have to get done today, but there might be 2 or 3 things that are time sensitive, a directive from my AD. So I prioritize that. And then also in the transition, one of the things that I've been able to do is create a calendar link. And so students can reserve time for very specific tasks. So if it's a student affairs question, if it's got whatever it might be, so I know what it is they're coming into my office about. I ask for key information. So they've got to give me my student ID, all that, so I can look it up and be prepared ahead of time. So using technology has really, really helpful in figuring out how to prioritize and manage my day.
Yeah, I'm trying to get on the technology wave. I'm still like a write it down planner kind of girl. Something about Google calendars and all that stuff is just not for me. But I do admire how you are still trying to incorporate and be intentional about making time with students and everything else that you prioritize throughout the day. So our next question comes from Mr. Garnett, and he says, you had a lot of experience on different campuses. What do you enjoy most about being on an HBCU campus?
Ooh. Community. It is a special mix of students, community, and history. And so I still remember the first time I heard the Mighty Morton Hornets and the band and the brass and the bass. And I was like, okay, this is a good time. I've signed up for all of that. And so as you guys know, HBCUs were formed, established, started for very specific intentional reasons to give those in the community access to education. That spirit's still very much alive. It's just that now we get to foster in a new generation, a new group. We know it's trendy right now. Everybody wants to go to an HBCU, which I think is fantastic for letting folks know that outside of the Power Five, the Group of Five, there are lots of unique ways to have a complete holistic education experience. But it's also nice to know that our mission or commitment hasn't changed. So it's just a fantastic community experience.
Good answer. Good answer. I feel like I'm on that show with Steve Harvey right now. So our next question is from Miss Sydney. She says, hey, Jacqueline, I'm late coming in from another meeting. How have you navigated the bumps that come along with ascending in your career? The bumps that folks don't tell you about?
Woo! Network and figuring out how to give yourself a lot of grace. I know you guys have heard people say this. Everybody, the rules are made up. Nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody's just faking it. There is some truth to that. There is some truth to that, but also having a network that I can call. And so I remember the first time I had a pretty intense conversation with one of my more visible sport coaches. And so, of course, hey, coach, let's circle back onto that. But first opportunity I got, called a really good friend in the industry. Hey, let's talk this out. Let me hear it from the perspective of a coach that I trust, that I value. So it's having a network of people. One of the things that you also realize in athletics is that folks want to help. Compliance administrators, academic administrators, especially, we do not want any people to struggle and to suffer the way that we do. So if you ever cold call a compliance or an academics administrator, they will call you back. They will reach out and let you know how to, whatever the issue might be. So I think it's just feeling okay to reach out and ask for help and know that you will not get it right all the time. You will not get it right all the time. And when you don't, try to calm yourself so you can think clearly to get a solution to get back on track.
I like that. I like that, especially the giving yourself grace part. A lot of people are very, very hard on themselves, but you kind of aren't helping yourself either if you don't learn how to give yourself grace to like get up out of that rut. Because if not, you kind of just stay there.
I am a kind and loving and caring and generous person, and it took me a long time to realize that I deserve those same qualities and traits and things that I give to everyone else. So you tried your best today. Sometimes, you don't get it. Let's dust off, try again tomorrow. So
I completely felt that. Our next question comes from Garnett again, and he says, how can men do a better job of supporting Black women and women of color who are administrative leaders in the sport industry? Good question, by the way.
I am so fortunate that I have had a phenomenal list of men to walk me through my career. George Bright, when I was at Lafayette, he's now the athletic director at Elizabeth City. Hadley Foster was one of the first coaches that let me travel with the male team. And so figuring that out, because there's awkwardness to doing that and not understanding how to have my role as an administrator, because we've all seen those headlines about, can women be in the locker room and doing interviews and all that kind of stuff. And so just taking the anxiety away from just doing really basic functions and things in my job as an administrator is traveling. When I got to Azusa Pacific, too many to name. Paul Sagdis was the head baseball coach when I was there. He let me see and understand that you can win, be competitive, and hold your student athletes accountable. It's not an and or. I think he's messed it up for everybody else that I'm going to meet, because I have seen greatness function at that top tier level. Victor Santa Cruz, Cesar Rivas, Peyton Williams, Jarnell Smith. There's just so many folks who have championed my vision of wanting to grow, excel, work specifically with football. They've just been willing to give me those opportunities. And I think it was just being intentional about making those connections. Hey, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. I want to support your program. How can we work to grow both goals and objectives?
Okay, cool. So before we get to our last question from one of my classmates, I have a question of my own.
Okay.
And I kind of ask this question to a lot of the guests that come on this show. But over the course of your career, what is one thing that you're most proud of accomplishing?
Ooh. It's so many things.
Okay, what's one, let's not say most proud, but what's one of those proud moments?
Oh gosh. I'm gonna say it was when I was at Lafayette College early on in my career. I was also the dance team sponsor. Lafayette and Lehigh were playing at Yankee Stadium, and I think it was like the 150th meeting between the programs. And so for those folks who are aware of Northeast football, it's like Alabama Auburn. It was a big deal. And so the president wanted a kick line that spanned end zone to end zone. And so here I am, a compliance assistant, working 1 million hours a day, making $1,500 a month. Managing 20 something programs, and in a blink of an eye, I'm meeting with Yankees executives. I'm in the president's cabinet meetings. I've got a budget to order things, and I make the dream and vision come true. So I think it was all right, this is what she wants. The girls need me, so let's figure out how to do it. I can go ahead and walk and be afraid and stumble and figure it out, so they don't have to, so they can enjoy the experience. So again, it was one of those moments where I said yes, and it was a blast.
Oh, I like that. It seems like you keep like the heart for people at the heart of what you do. So it seems like it kind of helps you navigate those tough experiences.
Right.
Okay, so our last question is from my classmate Maya, and she says, what tips do you have for building a strong / intentional network as a young professional?
Go to as many professional opportunity events as you can. and be intentional about making those connections with people. And so, and Candace can speak to this, there are a lot of organizations that give scholarships or free or reduced opportunities to attend for new professionals, young professionals in the industry, to take away that barrier of money as being an issue. Connect. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not the shyest person in the room. And so, hi, I'm Jacqueline. This is what I do. I'm interested in getting to know you. So getting those business cards, I think people just switch social media information. Be intentional about reaching out and staying in contact. And so the NTA had an inaugural class of women where they did a lesson in leadership and management. That's probably one of my favorite group chats right now. Just all kinds of crazy, hey, is anyone dealing with this? Suggestions, tips, which was so helpful, during COVID-19 and the pandemic. And so it's just being willing to meet people and then figuring out a way to stay connected to people. I think one of the things that sometimes we don't realize with professional networks, it doesn't require you to nurture it every day or every week, but you can send out maybe monthly reminders, ask for help, give help. Those are things that'll keep it fresh and at the top of your mind.
Thank you. That's actually really good advice. But that does wrap up our Q&A session. So if anybody else has any other questions, you missed out, and that's just too bad. So now I will pass it back over to Candace, I believe.
Thank you, Iane, for taking us through our Q&A, and Jacqueline, thank you again for the gems you left us with in your final few minutes. Those were great. I am still working on giving myself grace. As you know, as a successful student athlete, all the accolades, just used to success, and now I'm in graduate school. It's just a new territory. Now I'm at a predominantly white institution. It's a HSI actually, I think. So just maneuvering a graduate level program, not only getting a sport management master's, but also MBA as well. So it's just all new. So I'm very hard on myself a lot of the time. I'm just so used to excelling. So now just trying to get comfortable. Candace, like it's fine. Let's take a deep breath. Let's give ourselves grace, and we'll come out on top in the end.
So first of all, there's a little subtle flex right there, going through that long list of things. That's okay. I like it. I want, you have to learn to encourage, and I love it. I've got to get better at that. But I think one of the things that people ask me most often is that all of this, what I'm doing now, is new. It's been a long time since I've been brand new at something, but that willingness to jump in and figure it out will take you a very, very long way.
Every day we're just trying to figure it out. We had to figure out this finance exam, and we just had to figure it out. So absolutely. Thank you again, Jacqueline, for joining us. It was indeed a treat. It's always a pleasure to hang with an esteemed Alabama State University employee. So thank you again.
It was my pleasure.
And we're going to work to close out the show. All righty, friends, tune in exactly 1 month from today, so March 24th, for episode 4 at 2 p.m., where I will sit down to interview Kiko Price, and she will join us on March 24th once again. So please be on the lookout for the registration link. Also, please follow us on all social media platforms to stay up to date and informed on future programs at Institute SSJ. If you ever miss an episode, we've got you covered on our YouTube channel. We have all of our episodes posted and up to date, so please check those out. We would like to thank you for all of your support of Invisible Women in Sport. We're a nonprofit organization with other programs that impact various social justice issues. We would like to extend a special thank you and shout out to the Alabama State University. Please use the QR code that was just previously displayed on the screen to support us with a financial gift as we continue to change lives through the power of sport. Thank you. Once again, thank you to our team. Once again, I'm your host, Candace Martin. Special thanks to Ms. Jacqueline Freeman Johnson, our producer, Garnett L. Overby III, Senior Advisor Consultant, Matt Edelson, and Graduate Assistants, Maya King and Iane Miranda. And once again, a special thank you to all of our sponsors, and an even more special thank you to Alabama State University and their constant support of the Invisible Women in Sport podcast. Please follow us once again on all social media platforms to stay up to date and informed on future episodes at Institute SSJ. If you ever miss an episode, we've got you covered on our YouTube channel. Viewers, we need your feedback to make Invisible Women in Sport the best it can be. So following today's episode, you'll receive a short survey, so please fill that out and submit it. Also, we get a lot of inquiries about internship opportunities. So if any of our supporters or members have internships available, please send your information to our producer, Garnet Overby, at goverby@sportandsocialjustice.org, so we can send it out to the people reaching out to us. And once again, tune in exactly 1 month from today, March 24th at 2 p.m. for episode 3 of the Invisible Women in Sport podcast. Thanks for joining us.